I want to delve a little bit into Christianity here.
Mm.
And I suppose I'll begin with an article, a very lovely article that Louise Perry had written
Yeah,
for First Things, and you must recognise it. And she began with a passage from Tom Holland's Dominion, in which he argues that whatever it is you think of the Western world, it's absolutely been shaped by Christianity. And let me show you how. Because if I compare it to ancient Greece and Rome, which lots of
yeah,
people like to think we're closer to than that, is actually the moral values we have are a total inversion of those things, where the weak must just effectively suffer the strong.
yeah,
And she then goes on to show the archaeological evidence of mass pits of babies that had been
yeah,
aborted by Roman women. And it wasn't until the rise of Christianity that we saw abortion become taboo, and then all life
yeah.
start being seen as sacred. And I suppose my question, Lois, is there's no surprise that we are a de-Christianized country here in Britain, or at least we are trending in that direction. Certainly, the political class we have doesn't
Yeah.
subscribe to that, and many of our policy choices, whether it's on assisted suicide, known as assisted dying, or on the Abortion Act of 1967, run counter to a tradition and an ethical worldview that we had for so much longer.
Yeah.
Do you see the society as having the tools in which to be able to see life as sacred once more, or do you think that the Christian question might be the connotations with Christianity might be a turn off for people, and you actually need it to be able to get round the bend again?
I think that was definitely true for the boomer generation and Gen X, and probably also millennials. We're probably too late for us as well. But um, Gen Z, very interestingly, you've probably seen the headlines over Easter weekend where it
Hmm.
talked about a kind of revival of faith amongst Gen Z. And it's been 4 generations. So if you think the boomers' rebellion was not going to church because their parents wanted them to. Um, and that gave birth to the new atheist movement and the sexual revolution to extent and kind of trickled down into all the things that we experienced in that rejection of Christianity and that moral framework has bled out over the next 4 generations. But Gen Z didn't know the generation that ever went to church or held this moral framework. So they don't have that to rebel against. And actually, their rebellion now is looking at the state that we find ourselves in with all this. I mean, it's boring now to say woke nonsense because it's so overused, but you know what I mean. And in terms of we're now needing a Supreme Court to tell us what a woman is.
Hmm.
They are looking around, and the statistics show, especially men, but also women, in that generation are going back to church and are seeking that kind of transcendence and truth. And I don't think that means that everything is solved and everything's going to be great again, but I think it does offer some hope in a very hopeless world. That these things are being sought out, that truth and reality are being called for, and that they are seeking something that is very different to what they have been offered. And so if they're looking at a society which is on the brink of ancient Rome, maybe they're looking back to see what came next, which was the better thing, which was Christianity.